Hi, 505. It is summer of 22, and you are going to write a grant. So this short video will just be an introduction to grant writing, going through some of the jargon so that you can get started on it. I really enjoy this type of writing. I'm not a formal academic writing fan. When I have to do formal academic writing, it's like nails on a chalkboard for me. But when I'm writing a grant, it's a different type of academic writing because it's usually something that you're very passionate about. And you find a problem in whatever whatever workplace you're in, and you really want to solve that problem. And a grant can help you do that. So what is a grant? It's money that you get to perform some type of project and normally does not need to be paid back. For purposes of this class, Donors Choose is not a grant. Similar projects like that are not grants. We are talking about grants that are large amount of money, usually over $1,000. And if you have questions on if something is a grant or not, please text or ask me before you get too far deep into it. So the first way you know if something is a grant or not is it will always come with an RFP. That's your first lingo that you need to learn. The RFP is the request for proposals, and that's basically the guidelines of what they will fund. So if you teach at a K-12 public school, you will find lots and lots of RFPs out there that you qualify for. If you teach at a low socioeconomic status K-12 school, you'll find even more. If you're at a private school, they are a little bit harder to find, but you can definitely find it. You need to read the RFP very closely to make sure that your situation qualifies for what they are looking to fund. So just make sure that you're reading that RFP at least a couple times. Okay, so your proposal is what you actually write to basically beg them to give you the resources that you need to do a project. Now, your RFP that you find may not contain all of these components, but for the purposes of this course, you are going to be writing all of these components. My first goal of this project is that you actually get your first grant funded, but I also want you comfortable with writing grants enough that in the future you're like, oh, heck yeah, I can do that. So even if, future funding is not part of your RFP, we're going to do it in this exercise anyway. So proposal abstract, that's just like the abstract of any paper. It is the, summary statements of it. I always write this last. Why? Because when I'm writing, just like I'm writing a detailed lesson plan, I'm kind of fleshing out my thoughts as I write it. So I don't want to write the abstract until I have all of my thoughts and all of the details out. And then when you're done with all of the details, that's how I write it, is I come back and I write the abstract last. So first thing that I do is a needs assessment. What are your students' needs? What are your teachers' needs? What problem or opportunity does this activity or project address? Now, here are some ideas, okay? Look at your DRA or DIBELS levels if you're teaching little ones. Look at your LEAP or iLEAP scores. Look at the dropout rate. Look at your special education, 504, 1508 population. Look at your ethnicity of your school. Look at your socioeconomic level of your school, your attendance rate. If you are outside of a school setting, looking more at a college level, you can look at things. I had one person do security outside of dorms, and that was the problem that they came up with. So the very first thing that you need to come up with is a problem. you probably already have one in your head. Something is going on in your place of employment right now that just is an issue and you would love to solve it. If you have a couple in your mind, text me, email me, let's chat about it, and I can tell you if I think one would be more fundable than the other. So here are some, this is not real information, I just made this up. Here are some examples. Dreamworld State University is composed of a variety of ethnic groups with an attendance rate below the state rate of 93.9%. In this school year, almost 6,000 students enrolled full-time. The retention rate at the university is 73%. 81% of students enrolled are first-generation college students. That is just data. Okay, y'all? All that is, data. Here is where I say my problem. Due to the low socioeconomic status of the community served, it's imperative that the incoming freshmen receive hardware technology devices that would allow them to access university website, course curriculums, and productivity tools for course participation. So I'm going to repeat this a bazillion times during this screencast. When you're writing a grant, you're not asking for stuff. Okay? Right here, yes, you are going to fund Chromebooks for all incoming freshmen. But that's not the purpose of your grant. The purpose of your grant is to allow students access to technology. So it is very, very imperative that when you're writing the grant, you're not talking about the stuff that you need. You're talking about a problem and a potential solution. Of course, the stuff's going to come in there, but try to wrap your head around that. You're looking at a problem and a potential solution. Here's another one. 67% of 8th grade students scored approaching basic and unsatisfactory, with the largest number of students falling in the unsatisfactory achievement level. In addition, the subgroup students with disabilities, only one student scored basic, with the majority of students with disabilities failing in the unsatisfactory achievement level. The economically disadvantaged subgroup also performed below average, with 75% of the 8th grade math students failing in the approaching basic and unsatisfactory achievement levels. This shows a clear problem with specific data that you have pulled that the grant reviewers can actually see what your problem is. Okay, so where do you get this data? Here are two different ways that you can do it. School report cards are there for you because of COVID. Some of them are outdated, but you can still pull data from that. And census data is a fabulous way if your school is in an area where you can show a specific need concerning socioeconomic status, educational access, anything like that. Census data can absolutely be helpful. Okay, if you're a teacher, you already know this, but for my very few that are not already teachers, after you have your problem, you're going to write your objectives. They need to be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time specific. Okay? Objectives is your first kind of stop sign in this process. And I've said this in other screencasts too. I do not want you to go any further in writing your grant until you and I decide that your objectives are good. Some of y'all like to go ahead and move ahead really quickly, and I love that. I love y'all working ahead. But this is one assignment that I'm going to say, no, big red stop sign. Until you and I chat about your objectives, do not go any further. Okay, again, I said I was going to say this a million times. You're not asking for stuff. You are not asking for stuff. For example, you want new security measure cameras for outside of dorms. Your objective is not to buy new security cameras. Your objective would be to increase security and minimize the number of incidents by 20% at the university by the 2020 school year. So if you are not a teacher and you're new to objectives, maybe pause this video, look at these objectives, and look how each objective has these characteristics to it. Another example, you want Chromebooks for your fourth graders. Great, but you're not asking for stuff. You are trying to increase LEAP scores in reading and math by 20%. This is a very, very important slide. If you need to rewind and listen to it again, you are not asking for stuff. Okay, more examples. 80% of fourth grade students will increase their reading vocabulary by 2% based on their standardized test scores. Ooh, this is an old slide. By the spring of 2025, maybe. The students in the program will learn reading vocabulary, and I already said that. Don't go any further until you and I chat about your objectives. Your evaluations, again, if you're a teacher, you already know this, your evaluations are aligned to your objectives. Make sure that they are directly aligned. So each objective, how are you going to measure it? Let's go back up to this slide. How would you measure if LEAP scores in reading and math gain 20%? Well, that's easy. You're going to get your standardized test scores at the end of the year, and you're going to see. If you're looking at this one, that's, again, easy. You're going to look at police reports. You're going to look at all of those things to make sure that your objectives are evaluated properly. Next is the budget, and this will come at the end. What are you going to purchase with these funds? Make sure that you are getting all of the ancillary things that you might need. If you are asking for a new Promethean board, well, do you need any projectors? Do you need any bulbs for the future? Things like that. Make sure that you're asking for everything. If you're asking to set up a garden outside of your classroom and you're going to have somebody come build this raised garden. That's wonderful. But what about the seeds? What about the fertilizer? What about all those other things that you are going to need? Make sure that you are asking for everything that you need. Okay, aligning goals, objectives, and evaluations. Grant readers don't like to read a lot. And I know that's horrible to say, but I do federal grant reviewers, and I'm guilty. I do not like to read big, lengthy paragraphs. I love tables, I love charts, and I love bullets. This is a grant that I got funded just to show you an example of alignment that I'm talking about. So goal number 1 is the Enable program will provide greatly needed AB, Applied Behavior Analysis, resources to families and children across southeastern Louisiana. My procedures to meet this goal is that 2 new clinics will provide therapy for students with autism. How am I going to measure that? I put it right over here. This gives me a beautiful little table where the evaluators reading this do not have to comb through and search for what do I want to do and how am I going to do it and how am I going to evaluate it. So I don't know any grant reviewers that would rather, a 12-page paper than charts and stuff like that. At the very end, we are going to need a fun and catchy title. These are some of mine that I've done. Enable, Nichols Applied Behavioral Analysis Learning Lab, and that was the Nichols symbol there. The iBitty grant was one of mine, Improving Behavior and Instruction Through Technology with Youth. And the Surge grant, Supporting Undergraduate Residency Grant Through E-Learning. So they love catchy titles. And after you do a catchy title, make sure you use it throughout the whole grant. Okay, so let's do this. There is another screencast on the actual assessment. I honestly can't remember what number this is. I think it might be 6. But go watch that one next. And I want you to reshare your Google document with me as often as you can so I can give you feedback. There's other good examples of grants on Moodle, and I cannot wait to see what you guys write. Have a great day. Bye.